Morning, everybody. Welcome to Second Cup of Coffee. Pastor Tom here with Jay Santos. We're on week 3 of our conversation regarding re-entering, reopening, doing it in an effective way. And as we talked about last week, and again, I think it's the heartbeat of God, is re-engaging relationship. And we want to do that effectively. Jay, before we get into, we're going to talk just a little bit about Proverbs 4:13, where it says, take firm hold of instruction, don't let it go. Right. We talked about getting wisdom and understanding. Once you have it, it's precious. Don't disregard it. Right. I think that applies to relationship as well. Mm-hmm. Sure does. You don't want to but sometimes Jay and I are in 2 different stages in life. I have kids from 12, 10, and 5. He has grown children and grandchildren. So we're both very busy. He works and travels a lot all over Southern California. So you have to be intentional. Now, we don't always get a chance to connect, but I know that with relationship, once you have a track record of relationship and trust, you have to keep sowing the seeds into it. And one of the things that I think I'd like to ask you about is taking firm hold of it. It's wisdom, but it's also relationship. People pass through different sections of their life. Some of them are harder than others. Right. So that may impact how they act or how they respond. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So can you walk us through, because I found in my own life that coming through the other side of it, you make assumptions about people that weren't accurate because you weren't walking in their shoes. Right. And then when you see how really you get a chance again to sit down and talk, and they start laying out, not in a gripe session, but this is what we were walking through. Man, this revelation comes, and then if it's anything like me, this guilt comes. Oh my goodness, I thought that they were just the spawn of Satan. I'm kidding. But in all reality, because there was a disconnect because of life, not because of want to, but because of life. How do you navigate that? That's a reentry in and of itself, but how do you navigate staying hold of relationships, knowing that they change in seasons, right? You're closer to people in one season than maybe you're in the next, whatever. But how do you hold on to that? How do you invest in that?
You have to pursue. I mean, to me, every relationship has to be pursued. So as you create a relationship, it's keeping that contact going. Because the closer you are in a relationship, the more you understand where they're at. I mean, people change day to day depending on what's going on this day versus that day, let alone when people are going through a hard time. And if you let that space become between the two of you, and you notice that they're kind of off, and maybe they're a little bit sharp when they talk to you, or you see them talk to somebody else and they have that little edge that you don't really recognize that often. Right. The idea is not to pull away. Mm-hmm. The idea is to go chase them down and sit there and say, "How are you doing?" Right. What's going on, and it's reaching out. It's touching people in a way of trying to understand that, hey, I don't know what they're going through. I don't know. Not everybody shares everything.
Right. It's true.
So it's reaching out and asking and saying, "Can I help? Is there anything I can do? Can I pray?" Whatever it happens to be, I think you need to be able to do that.
And stay patient, I think, in it, right?
Always.
Because it may not, say you're going through something, I come to you and say, "Hey, how are you doing?" You may not be ready. It's maybe not even an issue with me, but you just may not be ready to talk about it.
Great, I'm doing great.
Right? Or right, exactly. Yeah. But then you can still see something, but stay patient because it's a season, and then they may come back and say, "Hey, I need your help, or I need you to, can I talk with you?" Apostle Dave has this wonderful phrase, you hear it from Pastor Over, "I'm not going to disqualify you," which means they're not going to let go. Not in a controlling way, but I'm going to keep the door open. T.D. Jakes has a saying that says you got to give them a chance to make a comeback. And that can be hard sometimes, especially if you, like you said, sharp. Sometimes it's more than sharp. Sometimes people are going through things and then there's a conflict, right, for whatever reason. And then you're trying to resolve the conflict, and then it just seems like it gets even worse, right? But I found often with myself, let's just say with Ileana, sometimes I'm upset about something that I'm not even upset about. but I'm not talking about this thing over here, right? I'll give you an example right now. In a couple weeks, after almost 6 years, we're actually interning my dad's ashes. Jay, it sucks. Sorry, it stinks. And you would think after almost 6 years, like, but I'm realizing that it's coming out in other areas of my life, but nobody would know that.
Right.
Because it's not something that I'm talking about. I mean, I'm talking about it now, but you don't think about it. You're just running through life.
Right.
But I realize it's something that it comes out in a snap at my kid, or a frustration at my wife, or even maybe somebody in the congregation, right? Or whatever. So can you just, to end us today, what would you speak to people who are in tough seasons and they're not quite sure how to vocalize that? Maybe they can't share everything, right? Maybe it's just not something that you can't tell everybody everything, right? But they're wanting to connect, but they're having a hard time because they're dealing with this kind of elephant in the room that they can't even maybe they can't even share it with you, but they still want to pursue that relationship. How do you see them kind of navigating that? Is there...
Well, when it's the same thing. Like, I always noticed with my kids, right? So things would be going on, and one of them would just start acting weird. Just things aren't right and things like that. And you push a little bit. You might push a little bit more with your kids than you would with other people,
right,
to try to get through. And typically, you don't get anything from them. Later on down the road, they might come back and share with you what was going on. A lot of times, it's they weren't in a good place because of sin, because of things that they were doing. But you have to talk about it. I don't think you can go through it without. Now, if that person is not somebody that you can talk about it to, then you have to find somebody that you can.
Okay.
So who do you trust that much that you can go and sit there and share something that deep? Because if you don't get it out, it
becomes bigger than life.
Right. It starts to grow. It's just like unforgiveness, right? It starts to grow within you, and you hold it inside. And we're not meant to hold those things. It's meant to be released so that we can walk through the forgiveness, or we can walk through the healing.
Got it.
If we can't walk through that, then the relationship won't go.
So let's just use you and I as an example. Let's just say that I'm going through something and it's impacting you could see a friction, right? And maybe I just have been off or whatever. I can't share with you. Let's just assume, like, I can't share it with you. That's probably not the case, but let's just say that there's something that weighing on me. How would I go about communicating? I guess in me, what I would say to you is, it's not have anything to do with you. I value our relationship. I'm walking through some things right now that I would love to talk to you about, but I just can't. And I think it's that simple, because you want to hold on to the relationship, right, but if you just don't say anything, right, then the other person's just out there, right? And so then, you could respond, right? I'm praying for you or whatever, or, hey, have you talked to this person? Like you were saying with your kid. Yeah. Like, if you don't want to talk to me, I get it. But have you talked to this person, people that you and I both trust? Yeah. And
if the relationship is good, you're able to do that. You're able, right, to sit there and send them another place. Like, right, okay, I get where you're coming from. Go talk to so-and-so, or, I really trust this person. You really need to go talk to them. And then maybe as you get healed, you can share with me. Now, the relationship is really close. That's where you have to be a little bit careful, because if it's a real tight relationship, and you're refusing in a way to share it with this person, right, then you have to look at, well, why is that? If you trust that person that much to have that close of a relationship, why can't you share something that's that deep?
See, that's a great question, because now you're talking even husband and wives.
Yes.
Right? Like, I think you follow up with, I can't share it with you right now, but I will. You can't necessarily put a timetable on it, but I'm going to, but I need to get some help.
Yeah.
To know how to navigate this, because I personally don't have that right now. And then you go to somebody, like for me, I would go to my pastors, or I would go to Jay and say, you have to be vulnerable with somebody. Right. You can't, as Pastor Over says, you can't live with the crazy man in your head, because that's just going to go bad. You really do. I don't care what age you are. You have to go talk to somebody and get that wisdom, which we talked about.
And that's the thing, somebody with wisdom.
Yes.
Don't go talking to somebody that,
right,
that is going to side with you, first of all, if it's something that's bad, or doesn't have any good godly wisdom that they can help you through it. Right. Because it'll just become now a camaraderie, and then it just builds up into more things.
Right. So, like, we're not, but I'm just using an example. If I'm having issues with my wife and I'm thinking about getting a divorce, I'm not going to go talk to my buddy who got a divorce.
Right.
That's leading me down. He's going to give me his experience, which is not what biblically what I need to be doing. In that case, I should go to somebody who's not divorced with wisdom and say, hey, this is going on and these are the thoughts. I'm not, so please don't write in. But but if I was, trust me, I'd be going to one of these guys and I wouldn't expect them to candy coat it. They'd be like, what are you, an idiot? And that would be good because sometimes you need that.
You do. It's a wake-up call.
But you have, the only way you get that, guys, is once you have the wisdom, you find the wisdom, okay, from last week. Once you have it and you know it and you trust it, keep a hold of it. Text that person. Just say, hey, I just wanted to say I'm thinking about you. Hello, how are you doing? Just keep the relationship, because once you find wisdom, you don't want to let go of it. You want to keep it. So guard it. We love you. God bless you. Next week is our final week of this conversation. We hope that it's been helpful to you. Find us, RCC, Second Cup on YouTube. Subscribe, share the videos. You find us on social media as well. God bless you.